What's poppin', YouTube family? It's your girl SHOtheOT, and your favorite occupational therapist, here to help you and others live their best lives. Let's get started. Hey y'all, welcome to another video in my new series known as Reflex and Chill. As you've read by the title, today we are talking about the BABINSKI reflex. And to start this video, to help me explain what the BABINSKI reflex is and what it looks like, we're gonna call on my good friend, Pigmonic. So let's look at a short clip explaining what the BABINSKI reflex is, and let's answer a question to make sure you was paying attention to the video.
The BABINSKI reflex, the baby ski, is characterized by the fanning and upward movement of toes when stroking the foot's sole. Understanding these reflexes is crucial for assessing neurological development in infants and identifying potential issues.
All right, y'all better got that question right. It was real easy if you paid attention to the video. But Pigmonic just gave us a little mnemonic tool, baby ski for BABINSKI, and the baby's hands were up in the air because you stroke from the heel to the big toe to stimulate the BABINSKI reflex. So thank you, Pigmonic, for helping me start off this video. All right, let's get into the rest of the video. Okay, so we've talked about how you stimulate the BABINSKI reflex, but now let's talk about why it's important to integrate the BABINSKI reflex. Now, if you watched my first video in my new series known as Reflex and Chill, we talked about what primitive reflex integration is. And so when I say integrate, I mean when you stimulate that reflex to show that you have mature reflex integration, you should not see a response to stimulation. And so for the BABINSKI reflex, if you stroke from the heel all the way up to those toes, and you see the toes like fan out like that, then you know that that reflex is not integrated. Okay, and so it is important to integrate the BABINSKI reflex because it can lead to problems later on down the line. And so normally we want this reflex to be integrated around 2 years of age because that is when you start getting those gross motor skills, which is what is primarily impacted if the BABINSKI reflex is not integrated by then. So a kiddo with an unintegrated BABINSKI reflex could have difficulty with walking. They could have difficulty with running. It could even cause them to toe walk, have tension in their legs and their hips. These kiddos could start walking on the inside or the outside of their feet. It can cause foot cramps. So just overall coordination is most likely to be poor if your BABINSKI reflex is not integrated. Okay, so now that we've talked about what the BABINSKI reflex is, why it's important for it to integrate, let's talk about how to integrate it. Okay, so there are both passive and active ways to integrate each reflex, okay? And so passive means that that person that you're doing the reflex integration on is just kind of sitting there while you do all the work. And then active is when you're sitting there and they're doing all the work. Okay, so let's talk about passive ways first. So I used my husband's foot as an example. Don't talk about my man's toes. Okay, I think it is a very fine foot, all right, if I do say so myself. He was generous enough for me to use him as an example so that I can show y'all what I'm talking about. The first way that you can integrate the BABINSKI reflex passively is to just apply firm pressure along that stimulation route. So the route that you stimulate for to get the response, that's the same route that you just apply firm pressure, and you just apply it from the heel all the way up the side of the foot, across and under those toes. Very firm pressure. It shouldn't be ticklish. It should not cause any discomfort. Now, it may cause discomfort if the reflex is active, but the point of it is to be firm pressure, not light pressure. Okay, the second passive way for you to integrate the Babinski reflex is for you to kind of put the foot in the response pattern. I took a video of me doing it on my husband's foot, so let's watch that really quickly. Okay, so as y'all can see, I am pushing the big toe back and kind of turning the foot and the toes inward, in the inward direction. Okay, and then after you do that, I usually like to do it 3 times. After you do that, then you're going to actually put the foot in the opposite direction. All right, let's watch that really fast. All right, as y'all can see, I push the foot out in the outward direction and then push that big toe down. So the opposite of what I did the first time. And I'm gonna do that about 3 times as well. So those are all of the passive ways of integrating the Babinski reflex. Let's talk about active ways. So active ways are going to be way more fun and interesting for the kids than passive, because passive, they're usually just like kind of sitting there. Usually if I'm going to do passive reflex integration, I like to give them a preferred toy, TheraPutty, Play-Doh, something for them to manipulate with their hands while I'm down there messing with their feet. But the kiddos enjoy active integration a lot more. So I'm gonna give you 3 ways that you can integrate the Babinski reflex actively. So the first way that you can integrate the Babinski reflex actively is by picking up things with your toes. So I'll have them do toe transfers. When I'm starting off in the beginning, I usually have them seated and doing toe transfers. So seated while trying to pick up things on the floor with their toes and having them drop it into a bucket or something. To grade that activity up or to make it harder, I'll have them standing so that they can try to do it that way. So now that's working on balance and coordination as well as that reflex integration. So yeah, picking up things with your toes is a great way to actively work on Babinski reflex integration. Another way to actively work on Babinski reflex integration is to do rock climbing. If you have like rock climbing or climbing a slide, or yeah, any climbing in general that requires your toes to grip something or to be like bent back while you're climbing is really, really good for Babinski integration. Yeah, and then the last one I would say is crawling on your belly, but digging those toes in the floor while you're crawling. So you're a little spy or something crawling on the floor while also bending your toes back while you crawl. So yep, those are the 3 active ways of integrating. Remember, active is going to be way more fun for the kiddo than passive, but both are equally as important. So sometimes I like to do passive first and then integrate it also actively. All right, y'all, that is all I have. That was a lot of information. I hope you took it in. I hope it made sense. Comment down below if you have any questions or if something I said didn't make sense. I'll try to rephrase it in a comment for you so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page and we all understand Babinski reflex integration. Thanks so much for joining me in my second video in my Reflex and Chill series. Yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.